Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Nicci Chats 2. So, for those of you who don't know me or are not familiar with this podcast, this is a weekly podcast that I do, and it's really fundamentally based on changing people's perceptions around various topics. And I interview people who I think have got something interesting to say, because I believe that is my mission in life, to share interesting stories with the world and give people a platform to share their stories. So if you are interested in receiving these podcasts directly to your mail, your inbox, please do sign up. I will put the link in the chat below in the comments so you can sign up and get this delivered directly to you. But I am very excited today to have the lovely Angela Spang with me. We connected through We Connect, and it's just her story is amazing. And I'm thrilled that she agreed to chat to me, especially since I basically connected with her last week and then promptly said to her, well, what are you doing next week? I want you on my show next week. So she didn't even have much time to breathe. So Angela, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for agreeing, especially so soon. And she's got a big trip coming up to the States as well. So she had to get in here in between everything else. Angela, so today we're talking about kind of this notion of perception versus possibility. And I'm actually just going to jump straight in because I think your story and your life journey it's incredible and it is so inspiring. So I just talk to me about your journey and tell me how you got to where you are, and let's see where this leads us, because I think it's going to lead us down some very interesting paths.
Yeah, it's I run a global medical device company, and I've invented a medical device, but my experience could not have told you that that's where I was headed at all. So I think I'm a walking example of the fact that where you've been doesn't really define where you're going. And as much as we talk to children today about choosing their future and choosing GCSEs in the UK or choosing your college or university experience, I think I'm certainly an example of those who can change at any point in time, because my formal education is as a dancer. I qualified as a dancer in one of Sweden's dance schools back in the day. And at that point, I had absolutely no thoughts about being in medical device or having to do anything with surgery or anything like that at all. I didn't even like school at the time at all. I was very bored in school. Very early, I was very bored.
Sorry, I probably should have contextualized that and told people that you are the CEO or founder and owner of June Medical, which is a medical device company,
Yes.
A global medical device company.
Yes, we're in over 25 countries now, which is quite stunning when you think about so on Sunday actually is our 9th birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I founded June I was sitting at my previous job at the time, and we were looking desperately for a UK distributor for the company, and we couldn't find one that was skilled and experienced enough to handle quite advanced products, implants, etc. Which was concerning to me because I wanted the portfolio to be well represented. At the same time, I had worked, so we lived in Amsterdam at the time. We had a daughter, and we were expecting our second child. And the company had just sort of looked at me and said, well, she can make things happen. We've gotten to market leadership in most of our direct countries. And they looked at me and sort of said, well, why don't we give her the rest of the world as well? Which is, very flattering, but also I'm like, oh man, somebody's always
no pressure.
Well, exactly, right? So that meant that, so I already was responsible for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and what was on the table and what I was given subsequently was also Latin America and Asia Pacific. So effectively covering pretty much every time zone there is. So, as much as it's very flattering to be given that kind of responsibility for a company and for a whole women's health division, it also comes with pressure, to your point. And at the time, having a little girl and expecting one more, I really didn't want to spend my time on airplanes. that being said, it was amazing, and I'm really grateful for the time and for the experience. But I did go to my boss at the time and said, well, I have a house in the UK. Why don't I take on the UK? And he sort of just laughed at me and said, well, no, we've already decided it's going to go to a distributor. And I said, well, yeah, but how about I'm the distributor? It's like, oh, who's going to do your job then? And I said, well, I'm going to leave and somebody else. He's like, no way. So we had this conversation for about 2 weeks until he finally gave in and gave me a shot at it and said, fine, you can present a business plan. But yeah, don't feel sorry for him though. He hired me twice. He knew exactly what he was getting himself into. So yeah, that's the long and short story of how I founded June Medical. And we started out as a medical device company in the UK, distributing other people's products. And then in the meantime, I've then subsequently made 1, 2, 3 now of my own. And that's where we've gone global. So yeah, so I'm heading off to the US next week to meet my US team for the first time. I've never met them before. I hired them via Teams during the pandemic. Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting, that's for sure.
That's insane. And I mean, congratulations on your 9-year anniversary. That's wonderful. It's a huge achievement, and to have achieved so much in 9 years is incredible. But
I didn't really set out to do that, and I have to say that that was not, that was not the plan. That was really not the plan. That being said, though, there was a plan, and I can see that we followed strategy, but I could not have planned for it or expected it to go like this. I mean, we won a Queen's Award last year, which is just mind blowing.
Amazing.
And that's, I have such an amazing team around me. You would not believe. They are absolute superstars. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
So how do you, so before we sort of go back, even before that, what happens when you have a plan and then things kind of happen around you that you weren't anticipating? How did you manage that? I mean, a lot of people that watch this are business owners, and I mean, myself included, so I'd be really interested, because you said you stuck to your strategy. So there was obviously something there, but how did you balance all of that?
Well, first of all, I don't have a plan. I always have a plan A, B, and C, always.
Okay.
And it's not something that I consciously think about that I should have. I just always want to have options, I guess, you know what, this comes back to ballet school, as stupid as that may sound. You always have an understudy. You always have a plan for what if this doesn't work? What if there is an injury? What if something happens? What do you do then? And there's always a plan for how shows must go on, right? So there's always a plan. And I think that's probably just ingrained in me to always have an alternative route forward. So that being said, though, did any one of us who ever did a risk management prep plan for a pandemic think that was really going to happen? I don't think any one of us did, right? But we sure had a risk management plan. So I think you can prepare to a certain extent for different events coming into your business, but there's also an aspect of unknown that you're just going to have to think on your feet and have to ask people. You're just going to have to be open-minded about not knowing everything. And I was really, really lucky at the time, because I just gone through Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses in the UK, which is a phenomenal program. Absolutely brilliant.
So I was actually on the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women program.
Were you? Oh, congratulations!
Yes.
Well done for getting accepted for that.
And same to you.
Thank you. But I have to say, what a phenomenal program and outreach that is. And the program as such, from an educational perspective, but the big win for me has been the WhatsApp group that our cohort has had since then. So it's effectively like having this ridiculously big 50 people strong sounding board, or it's like having a board. It's like having a resource that you can call on in any business for any question that you've ever thought of, and then some. So it's having that during lockdown, during the pandemic, during questions like what is furlough, and all of those things that we all had to figure out, has been absolutely brilliant. So I think that was a real confidence boost for me, to have during the pandemic, for sure. That being said, though, most of them thought I was crazy when I decided to launch June Medical USA during the pandemic. But sometimes you just have to follow your heart and do what you think is right. So yeah, that was not my best business decision ever, but it was the right thing to do.
Did it turn out okay? Was it a bit like this?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's okay now, but
well, did it turn out okay? It depends on who you're asking. If you're asking me, yes. If you ask finance, not so much. But one of the reasons why I started June Medical was because I wanted to have that freedom of doing what I believe is right. That means that now I can slide a paper across the table to say, send all to finance and to the team. And they shipped everything we had that we could send in terms of surgical retractors to Ukraine, because it's the right thing to do. Now, if I had had a board that had to approve that, if I had had investors that needed to sign off on that, I would have had long conversations, and I would have to show. Anyway, I could make silly decisions like that in a heartbeat, because it only impacts me. It only hurts my no longer salary for this year, right? And that's the pot that it's coming out of, and I can make that decision on my own. And that's one of the reasons why I started June, to have that kind of freedom. Now, about the US launch, you know, if somebody would say to me, okay, so this woman launched the surgical retractor in the US without having the opportunity to go there. She hired a team without having the opportunity to meet them. And she put all her faith in the hands of that team. And then she crossed her fingers, and that was it. And I would tell you, that woman is crazy.
You would be certifiable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Check me up, take me away. Because that's not smart. This woman, so this person has a global company. She is winning awards. Everything is going swimmingly. And she's taken in the entire success of that, risking everything she's worked for 8 years for. And she's putting that into this venture. And you'd be like, what on earth would possess somebody to do something so stupid? But then if you think back and you realize that the device I have helps surgeons during surgery, it holds back tissue, so it reduces the amount of people in an operating theater. It reduces the infection risk in an operating theater, because you can get by with less people, right? Okay. The device I have is less plastic, it's strong, it's dependable, it's less loose parts than the older versions of retractors. It's manipulated with just one hand because of the little cam locks I made. So it is going to have an enormous impact on surgery, especially during the pandemic, which means, do I have a moral obligation to make this product available to those who want to use it? Or should I sit and wait to say, it's not the optimal time for my profitability calculations to launch my... didn't sit right with me. So I was like, I'm just sitting here. I can't go anywhere. So I might as well see if I can find some people who wants to help me do this in the US. and we did. We did.
That's incredible. But it's the second time you've mentioned or raised this issue of making decisions based on what you believe is morally correct. So as you say, sending stuff to the Ukraine almost on a whim. Opening up your US office because it's the right thing to do. So no, it doesn't make business sense, but it's morally, you felt it was the right thing to do. And I think that's amazing. So is it, does that drive a lot of your decision making, that it's kind of this combination of gut instinct, what's the right thing to do? Is this for the greater good? Is that what drives your decision making?
Well, yeah. If it's not the right thing to do, we shouldn't be doing it at all.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So, yes. No, but it's an interesting thing that you picked up on, because when I started June, a lot of the people that I worked with came from large corporations. I certainly came from large corporate blue chip company. I started my career at Johnson & Johnson, so huge, right? And I did 10 years there. I still say I grew up at J&J. That's what it feels like. That's how I got molded into. I did sales, I did marketing, I did strategic, I did pre-launch, post-launch.
Okay.
That's where I, for the first time, stood behind a surgeon who turned around and asked me, do I cut deeper? And I had to decide on the spot, what do I say? And I decided that was going to be, and that was quite a defining moment for me, where I said, well, I can tell you that the device can cut deeper because I know everything there is to know about the device. But you are the one who treats the patient. So you have to make the decision on the patient, whether this device is right for that or not. So with regards to how I now make decisions, I believe that nobody can do everything right, but we should try. And nobody can fix everything, but we can all make a little difference. Whether it's just something as simple as hiring the person who really needs a job and find a job for them, instead of just purely thinking business, because I have the opportunity to do the right thing. And I, like I said, I started June because I wanted to do things the right way. And then, you can argue whether it's my way is the right way or not. Of course, we all have different morals, we all have different beliefs and all of that. But at least I'm trying to work with kindness. And I believe that even though I can make difficult decisions, I can do that with kindness and with the best outcome in mind for individuals as well as for the business.
I think that's wonderful, because I mean, a lot of businesses don't necessarily operate from, yes, it might morally be the right decision, but if it's not the best thing for profitability, or we might make morally compromised decisions because it's the best thing for profitability. So, I love that you've got that kind of core purpose that sits at the center of everything, that drives you, and that sits at the center of your business. I think it's wonderful.
Well, thank you. But I also recognize that I'm ridiculously privileged, right? I'm a white female in a Western country. I'm safe. I'm well. I have, I have the opportunity to go do this. I come from a well-paid job. I have more privilege than I realized, probably, as well, So I'm in a really privileged position to be able to do that. But to me, I can't change the fact that I'm privileged, but I can certainly make sure that I lift as I rise, and that I pay it forward, and that I extend a helping hand to those around me who might benefit from support and help. And if I can use that position to at least try to do good and try to balance that out, then I think we're on the right path of trying to get to where we have a better, more equal, more balanced opportunity for everyone. But, as I said, coming from a big corporate world, there was a lot of adjustment for me and for everybody else in the company as well, because we actually had a saying that still goes. If I walk into the office and I say, we can do anything we want, the team will unanimously reply, as long as it's legal and compliant. So, because there's a balance there, right? We can do it. And there's that big understanding is we can do anything. And I believe in that kind of personal freedom. You work with me. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. I hired you because you're better at that than I am. So my job is to support you. Whatever it is that you do, that's my job. But it also means that it comes with responsibility, right? It comes with responsibility and opportunity at the same time. But that's a dual sword, if you've ever seen one, right?
Yeah.
It's not a place to hide, that's for sure.
It's interesting that you raise that, because I always say, to butcher the Spider-Man quote, I don't think with great power comes great responsibility. I think with great freedom comes great responsibility. And these are the positions that people like you and I have put ourselves in, where we've chosen to work for ourselves. We have chosen to give ourselves that freedom, and we have to use that responsibly.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about privilege as well, because I'm a very middle-class white South African. I was born in the late 70s, so I grew up during apartheid. So as a white person, that automatically came with an exceptional amount of privilege under the circumstances. And I believe that the best thing that we can do with that is actually raise others around us, and not, instead of stepping down, lift others up, because we don't achieve anything by devaluing ourselves. It's rising others up that makes us and society as a whole more powerful.
I read a really interesting, I'm reading actually as we speak, a book called Invisible Women that I could warmly recommend. Ooh. So this book is talks about the invisibility of women. So again, a hugely unbalanced equality system in the world, and it's absolutely terrifying. As a side note, go find that book, everyone. It makes me angry. It makes me proud. It makes me curious, and it's very, very, very insightful. It's really interesting. Talks about how inequalities are actually killing, and not just necessarily race and religion, as we've known before, but also gender inequalities. Phenomenally interesting. That one, and the other one to read is from Sweden. So we got to balance that one out. I'll talk about that
later. Yes. So what do you do with, because I also find myself getting very angry when I read certain things, and when what do you do with that anger? Do you sort of temper it by going, well, I'm doing this, I'm empowering women, or do you just kind of stew in it? How do you handle that?
Break things very quickly. No. You know what? That's a great question. I actually don't often get angry. I very rarely get angry. But so my coping mechanism, if you will, is I think I'm not very good at details. So when I get really angry, I use that energy because I get like just angry. Good example, my dad died of prostate cancer in 2017. My dad was my biggest hero, my greatest supporter. We were very, very, very close. I was his. So he had prostate cancer for almost 10 years, and he was not well in the end. He survived that long thanks to my brother, who lived in the same house and could take care of him. But I was, because of my background, very much in charge of his treatments, his medicines, his et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, the last couple of weeks, when Dad was dying, it was my job to be with him. So I was his palliative nurse. We had that understanding for a long time. So I was with him, and I saw him to the other side in the way that he chose. You know, he got to die at home, and etc. But at one point, that anger that we talked about, it was really evident to me, because I ran Race for Life, the cancer awareness and fundraising race. And so I ran this 5K race. And this was fairly early on, and Dad was on chemo, and he was stubborn as you would not believe, right? He was, long story, he was determined to walk up the stairs. And for anybody who's seen or known or had chemotherapy, for that matter, you know what that will do to you. But Dad was adamant that he was going to walk up the 6 flights of stairs to get exercise to his chemo treatments. Okay.
Right.
When most people arrive,
that's a great time to start exercise, because, well, not start, but yeah.
So that's what he was hell bent that he was going to walk up. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to run Race for Life to fundraise and raise awareness for cancer treatments, etc. It was just that it was one of those days, you know, when you run a lot, sometimes you just have days where you just you can't run. You got nothing. You're like cooked spaghetti. Your legs are feeling like they are heavy in the sand. You can't lift them. You run and run and run, and you effectively run on the spot like a sewing machine. You're getting nowhere. It was one of those days. So I start running with my music, and I was like, this isn't going. I'm not going. So I ran 5K that day in 22 minutes. So it was a good time, but I ran on pure fury that day, on pure willpower, on pure determination Because if my dad can walk up 6 flights of stairs during his chemo treatment, I can freaking run 5 kilometers, right? That was one typical example of where that determination is just going to, and we are much stronger than we think we are. We have much more resources than we think we do. We think about challenging things, whether it's in business or in life or in relationships. But actually, once we really need to pull on that strength, we have a lot more than we ever thought we did. And I don't think that we are even halfway aware of how strong we are until we really need to be. I really do think so. So it's not something to be afraid of. Difficult times is not something we should look forward to, but they should also not scare us, because we are stronger than we think we are, much stronger.
I love that. And I love what you say about resources as well, that we actually have a lot more resources, whether it's internal resources or external, than what we realized. And it's something that I learned towards the end of last year. We also went through a very rough time personally. And, I was reflecting on it the other day, and I suddenly thought, it's like, wow, people really care. I never, there were people who said to me, but why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, you're busy. You've got a life. You've got things. It's like, well, that actually doesn't matter. That can be put aside. I can do X, and Z. And that really astounded me. And it was also a big realization that I have more resources than what I thought I did.
Yes. But and that is anything, that's one of the positives for the pandemic as well, because the way that people have reached out to each other and supported each other and come together as a community everywhere around the world has been stunning. That being said, the challenges that it also brings from a standard of living, and I mean, my heart go out to all of those who lost near and dear ones, and who are indeed also those who have been really, really sick and who will feel that for a long time. But you're right, in terms of reaching out for resources. On the flip side, have we ourselves done everything we could with reaching out to others, even though we might think that they have everything they need, even though it looks like they're doing just fine? Have we made sure? Have we just sent that little note? Just those unexpected things, that trying to do that once a day, in terms of reach out to somebody who you think is doing just fine because it looks amazing, and just double check. Can't hurt, right? Can't hurt.
Absolutely. So I want to dig into that a little bit more, because that was what initially you and I sort of actually spoke about, this whole concept of people's perception. So I'm sitting here, you've just told me your story, charmed life.
Yes.
You studied dancing, you got this fantastic job at Johnson & Johnson, by hook or by crook, because you didn't have, or should I say by your personality and your skills, because you didn't have the formal education to back it up. You started your own company. It's gone global. It's amazing. You've got this Queen's Award for Innovation last year, which was also incredible. You've got a husband, you've got kids, you've charmed life.
Yeah, very much so, right?
That's what people are going to perceive. Yes.
Yes. And it's so easy at that time to look at that and go, well, it's easy for some, it's easy for some. Some people just get it all. Some people just get it for free. And I'm sure that's true, but it's not true for me. And I think the reason why I wrote a book, my book, the book, this year, recently, actually. I just had the proof. Actually,
yay!
The proof is here. Yes, so
move it over a little bit so we can see the cover. There we go.
Hold on. There we go. Yes.
Perfect. Lovely.
Yes.
So my copy is on Kindle, so it doesn't work quite the same way.
The Kindle one is certainly looking better, because this one had a couple of things in it. So this one has to go back to the printers, because I wasn't happy with that. But I wrote this book, and it was a present to start with. I got a present from my loving husband, who is just amazing and always know what I need better than I do. So he gave me this opportunity to write a book. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to write a book about. you sort of start with. Then I dreamt about writing a book and dreamt about that. I dreamt about me telling me in my dream that I should stick to Twitter. So clearly I was not confident about writing a book, because stick to your 140 characters, woman. That's all you got. But I wrote a book. Yay. So I wrote a book because I wanted to make sure that people don't look at me and think that some people get everything for free. Because it's important to me that people understand that it's not a straight journey and it's not easy. And where I started out, you would have never thought I would be here. Never, not a chance. You would look at me and think this girl is going to go, she's going to end up drugged in circumstances that we are never going to see her again. The fact that I'm alive is probably a miracle. I lost 15 years of my youth from when I was about 14, and another 15 years of that I have no memory of. It's a blur, and it's for self-preservation. I don't remember more than snippets here and there, but the story as such is not one of misery. I'm hoping that it's one of promise as well, because if you can come from that, and if there are people who can pull you out of that, and if there are people around you who will help you forward, like the person who hired me to Johnson & Johnson, who yet to this day has no idea how influential they were on my life. They have no idea.
Amazing.
I've never told them that. And they don't know until they read the book. They're going to find out that was really an opportunity for me to understand that where I was coming from wasn't necessarily going to determine my entire future as I had thought before. So, giving somebody a chance and a hands up like that can really change somebody's life. And it did for me. So I think looking at it, yes, it looks charmed, but I have not met a single person who would want to switch places with me when they read the book. Not a single person.
Yeah, so please go and have a look for Angela's book. I think it is on Amazon. I will share the link. It's called Outspoken, What I Never Told Anyone. And it really is, it's a very powerful, very sad, but very inspiring story. And it's, I found it very moving. Oh, and congratulations. I think
it's the first time I talk about the book.
Oh, Emma! Yay! That's so exciting! Oh, and now I'm going to cry too.
Let's not do that.
We only live. It's fine.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. So it's the first time I talk about the book, and it's so when I say that it's things that I've never spoken about, it's my husband walked in to our bedroom yesterday and said, so the book, and I said, yeah. And he said, so why do I have to learn about things about you from a book? And I said, because it's in the title. Things I never told anyone. And he's like, yeah, but we're married. And I was like, well, yeah, but, and it made me think, why haven't I even told my absolute closest? And I think it's because those are the hardest to tell, in a way. With people I know less, I can be more distant to telling stories, the history, the memories. But I also think actually it helps doing it in English. And this it hasn't dawned on me until yesterday, because my memories are in Swedish, and I've been asked. Yeah, so I've been asked if the book is going to be coming out in Swedish, and I said no, I can't do that. And people are like, well, why not? You're Swedish. What's wrong with you? And actually, I can't. I can't go through it in Swedish. I need the distance that the language gives me to be able to tell it or
separate.
So I can't do that. I'm not going to say I wish I could, because that's irrelevant, and that doesn't work. But I realized that doing it in English has helped, and it's helped me see as well that my family members were much more victims than I realized. I wasn't the only victim for this person's crimes. So was my mother, which is something that I realized throughout writing the book as well. We have a really, really strong bond as a family. Otherwise, we would have never survived this. Never. But yeah, there's the reason why I'm here today. And that's why, I also wanted to write the book as a thank you. Because as I mentioned, there was one person who hired me to Johnson & Johnson and gave me a chance. But there's also another person in the book who has no idea how influential their words were to me. And that's where I finally, as a grown-up child, I don't know what I was. If you miss your entire youth, can you call yourself a grown-up? I don't think I could.
No. Even if you don't really call yourself a grown-up. It's a relative term. Nobody cares.
But when somebody first heard me tell about what happened and talk about and just told me that it wasn't my fault, that again was a completely complete shift in my world. So it's thanks to her as a healthcare professional and thanks to all the other healthcare professionals. Maybe it's not a coincidence I ended up in medical device or in healthcare anyway. Who knows? You never know.
Maybe it isn't. But I think it just goes to show these people obviously met you directly, and the person who employed you and the therapist that helped you. But it just goes to show the power that we have to influence other people's lives, possibly without even realizing it. And I think what I find so brave of you to do this and to put yourself out there like this could influence somebody that you've never met.
Yes.
And somebody could actually pick up a copy of your book and go, hang on a minute, I experienced the same thing. And here's somebody who went to hell and back, but she got back. And not only did she get back, she's actually doing not too badly in life, I wouldn't say.
Not too shabby.
And so if I can do that, and I think we really downplay the influence of role models in our lives, and I think we downplay maybe especially as women, I don't know, we downplay the role models that we have potentially become to other people.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one, because when somebody says to you, you're such a great role model, a little voice in me always says, if they only knew, right? But then I'm starting now to see that actually it's because of that I'm the role model. That doesn't retract from the fact that I am here. And somebody who has read the book just said, can I ask you just one question? And I was like, sure, yeah, exactly.
I might not answer, but go ahead.
But they asked, do you wish that had never happened to you? And I thought that was such a good question. Because while I don't want that to ever, we're talking 15 years, right? Of touch and go, effectively. While I don't want that to ever happen to anybody else, today, where I am today, I have an understanding and I have a respect and I have an appreciation of life that I would have never had I not gone through that. I have a recognition of how important today is. Now, that being said, it's also a freaking difficult driver, because I feel like I'm in a hurry all the time. I'm in a hurry. I have years to catch up on. And I feel like I need to contribute, to do more, to go faster, to drive faster, to move quicker. So it's a tough driver as well. But I'm here. I'm here in this place because of what I went through. And here is a great place. Here's an amazing place. I'm honored and grateful and so lucky and so happy to be here. So how could I possibly wish for anything to be different? It's a real, I don't know. I had to, I don't know. I don't know. I know I would never, ever, nobody, no matter who they are and where they are and what they've done, that's not something that should ever happen to anyone. And that's clear. Obviously.
Absolutely.
But I'm good now. I'm good. I'm good. And now I can help. So I will say this, if there's somebody who does read the book and who doesn't want to talk to anybody else, and who hasn't talked to anybody else, and who doesn't want to talk to anybody else, then just know that you can talk to me, because I get it, and I can help. And if I can help,
very powerful.
I will. Simple as that. So maybe that's my reason.
I mean, that's so wonderful, and it just speaks to so many things, because the world has gone through a very rough time at the moment. I mean, as you said right from the word go, maybe not the same experience as yours, but different. And people are suffering, and knowing that it's okay to actually hold, I almost want to call them two conflicting emotions at the same time. On the one hand, it's devastating and you wouldn't wish what your experience on anybody. But at the same time, this sense of gratitude, because it put me where I am, and I hate that it happened, but I'm grateful. And we can actually hold those two emotions at the same time around many, many situations.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those as well. It does bring you shields, maybe confidence. What are you going to possibly say to me to hurt me now? What are you possibly going to, I mean, really words? I did a great experiment at lockdown. I wanted to show my children the power of social media, and I wanted to get them to understand and manage the kind of emotions and challenge and hate and abuse that one gets on social media these days. They're getting to the age where this is highly relevant. So I started a TikTok account, and I thought I'd share my experiences with Brexit, for example. As a Swedish immigrant in the UK, I thought that was highly relevant, because the amount of times people say to me, "Oh, but we don't mean people like you." And I say to them, well, actually what you've just done, because I have this.
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
That's not
from the right country.
Yeah, that's racism, people. That's different.
Yes.
That's different. Anyway, so I started this TikTok account, and I thought I'd educate on what the practical implications of Brexit actually were on the UK and on people in the working environment and medical devices, etc., because that was clearly not part of the discussions. But it was a good experiment, because it showed my girls that they know who I am. I'm not saying anything on TikTok that is anything that I wouldn't say to anybody face to face. It's based on my experience, knowledge, international trade, etc. But the amount of abuse and hate that I got for things like my looks, it was crazy, right? But again, I could do that comfortably, because there's not a word in the world that you can say to me that would make me even flinch, right? If you want to hurt me, you're going to have to step up your game, because it's been worse, I'm sorry, but is that all you got, kind of thing? But it was interesting, because it also showed me my level of resilience with abuse is so much higher. People around me were offended, appalled, shocked, wanted to fight for my honor, and argue with these people, these trolls online, to defend me. And I was like, well, I'm sure I'm getting so worked up about it. It's just people online. And it's interesting to me to see that my resilience was way higher. It ran off me like a water on a duck. It was just didn't get to me at all. And I thought that was quite telling. Good experiment, certainly.
Yeah.
Sure. I love my TikTok gamers. They're so awesome. And there's now 25,000 of them, and they are amazing. Most of the trolls have gone away, so that was cool. But it was a good social experiment, that's for sure. Very useful.
That's so interesting. And it talks to how we do these silly things and they end up having these massive knock-on.
I know. It really was not supposed to be. It grew from like these 300 people who were like, she's stupid. She shouldn't go. She should go home. That was like the first sort of weeks on TikTok. And now I've got this amazing following of 25,000 people who are, clever and supportive and enthusiastic and who are curious to debate and discuss things from different angles. And they're learning. We're all learning in the process. I'm learning too. So it's fantastic. I've learned so many things on TikTok. It's ridiculous. It's amazing.
You go down those TikTok rabbit holes all the time.
Oh, God, goodness me. The amount of stuff you can learn on TikTok. I now peel bananas from the other way around. Thanks to TikTok. Yeah, I know.
Okay, tell me about that.
Okay, so bananas, right?
Random fact.
Random fact, banana, right? Got banana, like so, right? And you take the big handle thingy and you pull it down. No, that's wrong. You have to turn it upside down. You hold that as the handle and then you peel the banana. Come on, who knew? I'm telling you, TikTok is the source of all knowledge. The amount of stuff I learned on TikTok.
Including peeling bananas.
I know. It's very entertaining.
It's interesting that people were trolling you, not the person teaching people how to peel bananas.
Well, that being said, there are a couple of people there who are remarkably resourceful. I will say that. But no, it's an easy place to get distracted into. That's for sure. But that being said, it's also, again, if you do it in the right way, like all social media, if you do it in the right way, it can really be a great community and a great friendship as well. But it's like with everything. You got to have a plan B and a plan C, right?
And I think it also speaks to what is sort of been coming through as a common theme with everything that you've been saying, that everything is layered. Nothing is just surface level.
No,
and as soon as you take something as surface, it's 9 times out of 10 you're gonna be wrong.
Yeah.
But our people we put on pedestals are layered. Our role models are layered. Our experiences are layered, and they're complicated. And there is this kind of massive gray area in all of our lives, and we actually don't live in the black and white.
We don't ask why enough. That's if there's one thing I keep discovering, it's the reason why. So again, TikTok is a great example. My username on TikTok is the educated Swedish woman, which obviously is highly ironic and could not be further from the truth, right? I'm in the UK with, Oxford and Cambridge, and people are like, yes, I've been to Eton. And I went to dance school for 2 years, and half the time I wasn't even there. So my level of formal education is like, so very funny, right? So I think that's hilarious, but people take that for what it is. Like, oh, she's so educated. I'm like, right? Yes, I can triple turn you to death, right? Nailing that.
You do that on points.
Right? Oh, for sure. I can still be on point without point shoes. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that. But it's quite interesting. And it just leads forward to, I think, where business success comes from as well. Because again, this questioning of why is hugely important. And practical example, we had a surgeon who was going to use who was using our surgical retractor and said, oh, no. The team came back to like, oh my God, we need to redesign it because it doesn't work with laparoscopic procedures. I was like, what? This is terrible. This is not good news, right? You have a medical device that's been in the market, you got to redesign it. So it's like, okay, so no, it has to be redesigned because it's in the way. So really? That sounds strange to me. Why? Oh, I don't know, but can you come and talk to them? So yeah, sure. Happily trotting off into UCH. It was in London, University Hospital London. And it turns out that when I ask why, she explains, oh, because when my colleague is doing laparoscopic procedures at the same time, the upper ring is in the way. And I go, well, do you need the upper ring? And she goes, no, it's just in the way. So I pull out another frame out of my bag and say, how about this one? And she said, oh, that's perfect. Problem solved. And we were literally hours from going into this major problem solving, redesigning assessment of why the shape was wrong for surgeons. And it just, again, it's such a simple example, but the question why is the most powerful question I have ever come across. And I keep coming back to it. Why? We got to do this.
Well, that's why my company is called the Why Effect.
That's why I love that. I thought that was so brilliant, because it just gets to where, and again, why I agreed to speak with you about this, because I wrote a book, but I'm not even sure why I wrote a book. And I'm learning now why I wrote the book. But it also goes to show that we don't necessarily have to go into something with the whole plan going forward. We just have to do the next right thing. Well, I'm quoting Frozen from Disney now, am I not? That's ridiculous. Frozen 2 for everyone. I usually quote Wicked. This is a step up. I'm going Disney instead of musical. This is good.
Look at your education growing.
I know. Hey. If I could only get myself a diploma, something outside of this Frozen world, that would be so great. But it's funny, you know, the life lessons there. Everyone deserves a chance to fly, right? There you go. I got Wicked too.
Listen, strong female characters. I'm a Frozen fan. I'm there.
There you go. And I, as much as I joke with, especially now, you know, I've been in the medical device world for what, 20-ish years. And I've learned a lot during that time. I can have a discussion around anatomy or surgical procedures that matches most people who've done this for a long time. And I usually get the question if I'm a surgeon or if I'm a nurse. But you know, nobody yet to this day has been able to guess the fact that I'm a trained dancer. So clearly that's not the first place you go to. But I will say this. People worry a lot about what their education is, but if I can look at my education and pull out the bits that are useful for what I do today as a global company owner, then every education will have its useful features for somebody in the future, because I can look at it now and say, the grit that I have, the discipline that I have, the patience I have, for knowing that, yes, we're going to put in a lot of work into this now, but as long as we do all the right things, it is going to lead us to where we want to be. And we just need to let each step take its time, and we just need to prepare correctly, and it will come. And that comfort and that understanding that preparation is everything, and that it just follow the plan and it'll be fine. That comes from, you know, those stupid point shoes with blood on them, because you do it again and you do it again and you do it again. And it comes from the experience of my Russian ballet teacher, who wouldn't let us stand up for 6 months because we weren't worthy. We were on the floor for 6 months in his lessons, right? Wow. It's harder to cheat if you're on the floor. You can't cheat on your turnout if you're on the floor. I've never been so sore in my life. Oh my goodness. Walking downstairs was impossible. We had to go up backwards. Legs would just give. It's not good. We're not worthy. But, you know, that kind of resilient determination, structure, and it teaches you things that you don't realize at the time, but going forward, it's something to fall back on. And I have exactly that now. And I can see it in the design as well. I don't design medical devices for what surgeons tell me they want. I design it based on how I see them moving, how instinctively I know how that feels. I know how they should be moving for that to be better. And that's how I use my experience and what I can see and copy into designing medical devices that are better and that are useful for men and women, with regards to range and grip and size and length. And all those things. So it's, you know, no matter where you've been, you can go anywhere you want to.
I love that. And I love that you sending out this message that every single thing you do, every single thing you learn has actually got, it's like an octopus. It's got legs. I mean, who would have thought I mean, dancers have got great awareness of anatomy. You have to have, you're an athlete, so through doing all of this, there's so many different elements that it touches on, and there's so many different things that you can learn with this and do with it. And I mean, Angela, this has just been amazing, and I've loved talking to you, and I've learned so much. Do you have any final thoughts besides obviously go and buy the book? And you're allowed.
No, I don't even want to say that. I really don't even want to say that. But I will say it's free on Kindle, unlimited. So that being said, though, I should say that all the proceeds from the book actually go to Kiva. Kiva.org is a platform for lending microloans to entrepreneurs in whether it's in challenging areas or in war zones or third world countries. And Kiva.org has a team now for those who directly want to go and lend money to microloans. But all the proceeds from the book is going into Kiva as well. And so far we have lent to over 25 countries 25 people in 6 different countries. And the loans are there so that small business owners can buy tools or seeds or similar and build their own business so that they can start helping themselves instead of just being donations. So it's a way for people to start a little company and start becoming self-sufficient. So that's where all the proceeds from the book is going. And yeah, that's a good idea.
I love that.
That's a great idea. Yes, I wish
that's a good enough reason.
Yeah, so it's one of those ways where you can give people not just a loan to start a business, but also a platform to feeling that self-respect and feeling that, building that confidence in their own abilities instead of being reliable on donations. So it's it's really cool.
Absolutely. Well, Angela, I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much. I knew it would be fantastic talking to you, but it's actually been a whole lot more amazing than what I thought it would be. Thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks,
anytime. I think we might need to do a follow-up, but thanks so much to everybody who is watching us live and who will watch the recording. Please do reach out. Please go and buy the book and do sign up for the mailing list. But thanks very much, and I will see you all next week on Nicci Chats 2. Have a great rest of week and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.